Hi, welcome to Kitchen Uncovered. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson of the Culinary Institute of Canada. Today, we're talking chicken. Now, most of you go grocery shopping at your local store, you can get whole chickens. And so today I decided I'd show you what to do with that whole chicken other than just roasting. But while we're talking about roasting, most chickens you buy are big roasting chickens. These chickens we have are called fryers, and they're about 1.5 to 3 pound chickens. And they're really good for feeding people in small groups of 3 to 2 or 3 people. So the way that I like to roast it is just trust it. If you don't have any string or anything, is to tie it up. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take the wings, and you want to make it a nice tight little ball so that when the chicken roasts, it's uniform in shape and it'll all cook fairly evenly. So we're just going to take the wings and we're just going to tuck them underneath to tie them back. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of the extra fat out, and we're going to close it up. And all we're going to do is we're going to take a paring knife or a butcher's knife, and we're just going to put an incision right here in the skin. Okay, not all the way through, just a hole to put the legs through to kind of crisscross them a little bit to hold them closed. And what that does is it makes the bird a nice tight little ball, so that you can, just another little cut, so it doesn't flop open on in the oven on you. Okay, so now another thing you can do to get a nice crisp skin on them is take a little bit of butter, just some butter pads, and loosen up the skin on the breast, just underneath with your finger, and put the little pads of butter in there. And what that'll do is that'll help the basting and keep the extra moisture in the meat, and it'll also help to get the skin nice and crisp. Now, before you're putting in the roasting pan, you're going to want to make sure that you have an oven-proof pan. You can use a roasting pan or a saute pan if you have one that's oven-friendly. And you want fairly large mirepoix, some onion, a little bit of celery, and some carrots. And what that's going to do is that's going to give you want it fairly chunky so that it doesn't burn up and become bitter. But what you want is to add a little bit of extra flavor to the roasting pan so that when you go to deglaze, you can make your sauce and make a nice flavorful gravy. Okay? So we're going to take the chicken and put it on there, and the mirepoix also is going to keep the chicken from sitting on top of the pan so it doesn't sear on the back. It's actually like a cooling rack or a roasting rack. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to season with a little bit of salt and pepper. And if you have a favorite spice rub or steak spice or anything like that, or chicken rub in the cupboard, you can use that to season the skin and the chicken a little bit as well. And we're just going to sprinkle that over top. And then it's best if you roast chickens at a lower temperature, about 300, 325 degrees, so that long roasting gives you a juicier chicken and it doesn't shrink as much because of the high heat. So because we can and we have it available, we're going to use our fire roasted oven, and I'm just going to put that in the oven, kind of to the back a little bit, and we're going to let that roast at about 325 or 350 for about 2.5 hours, okay, until done. Now, the other thing that you can do with the chicken when you get it home is you can break it down into its primary pieces, and you can make a nice stock with it. And the beauty about having the stock is when you make it, you can portion it out into muffin tins or ice cube trays, have it in the freezer in a Ziploc bag, and have it there for whenever you have another chicken dish that you want to make a quick gravy, or just have it on hand. So to break down the chicken, what we're going to do is we're first going to take our knife and we're going to trim off the wing tips because they'll burn, and we're going to throw those in our stock pot. Okay. Then we're going to take the leg and thigh off. So you just separate it right where follow the natural lines where the breast and the leg and thigh meet. Okay. And we're just going to take that off. And the same on the other side. You just go through the skin underneath the hip bone and just pop it out, and then take your leg and thigh off. Okay. Now to take the breast meat off, you go right down the center where the breastbone is, and you just follow the natural lines of the bone, just around the ribs. And then take it off at the, okay? So you're just following the natural lines of the rib, just so it peels away through the shoulder, and then you have breast meat, legs, and thighs. Okay, now the carcass is where the stock and all the gelatin is. So that's what you want to make your stock out of. So you can take that and you just put that in your stock pan, and add a little bit of mirepoix to it again. So you want something fairly chunky that can cook with it. So we're going to add a little bit of onion. Okay, and a ratio for the onions to your vegetables is 100% onions. You use about 50% of that amount of carrots and 25% again of celery. And then you add water enough to cover and a bay leaf. Okay? So just use, and you have to use, make sure that you use cold water when you do your stocks, because you get a clearer stock and it won't be as cloudy. So you always use cold water to start. Bring that up to a simmer, and that has to simmer for about 4.5 to 5 hours to break down the carcass and get all the gelatin out is what you want in a good stock. So what we're going to do is just take the wings off of here a little bit. So we have the wings, the legs, and thighs. Okay, now to get some extra spice and flavor in there, what we're going to make is we're going to make a quick little sachet. Now the sachet has got a blend of spices, so we have some peppercorns, right? We have a few cloves, a couple of bay leaves, and some parsley stems. And you can add whatever you want to your flavoring just to enhance some of the flavor. And the reason we put it in the sachet is to kind of keep it all tight and together. And what we'll do is we'll tie this up in a neat little package, right? With a string. Tie it to the side of the pot, and then at about 3 hours into the process, we'll take that out, and that will allow us to not overpower it, so we can control how long the sachet stays in the stock and gives us flavor. So as the temperature comes up on your stock, you just tie this to the handle so you know where to find it. Very simple. I get my knot working for me. All right, so we can find that. We come right back. I'm going to make a quick barbecue sauce and show you what to do with the legs and thighs, so don't go away. Welcome back to Kitchen Uncovered. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson of the Culinary Institute of Canada. Today we're cooking chicken. So we have our chicken stock on. We've got our chicken broken down into different components. Now I'm going to show you how to make a very quick pan-fried pan stuffing. Okay, so we have a searing pan on. We have some bacon. So we're going to start off with the bacon in a hot pan so you get some sizzle going on. You don't want it to caramelize or burn too much, so you just want to make sure that the pan's got some heat in it. And what we're going to do is we're going to let that bacon kind of render out a little bit and get the juices, and we're going to use the bacon fat in the stuffing. The other thing we're going to put in the stuffing is going to be some onions. We're going to use a little celery and carrots, and we're also going to use some dried fruit. Now today we're going to use dried cranberries as well as dried apricots. You can use whatever fruits or whatever you have around the kitchen that you want to use up. And also we're going to make rosemary, thyme, and savory herbs in it as well. Okay, so we don't want a whole lot of color on this, and the bacon's gonna cook throughout. So what we want to make sure is we make sure that it's rendered out, and we're going to use the bacon fat as the base for our sautéing of the other vegetables and the fruits. You can see our stock is starting to come up to a simmer, so we're going to turn that down because you don't want your stock to boil. If your stock boils, it's going to become cloudy. So you want it to stay nice and clear. So it should just be at a lazy simmer with just a bubble breaking the surface every once in a while. And if you get that foamy bubble at the top, then you can take a ladle and you can just skim that off, because you don't want that to circulate throughout the stock. You want a nice clear stock as you're making it. So kind of keep an eye on it, just nurse it a little bit, and it'll all work out. So our bacon is starting to sizzle up there now. We got some fat to work with, and we want the bacon to cook, but we don't want it crispy. So we're going to start adding some of our other ingredients. So we're going to add a little bit of onion. Okay, not too much, because you just want to have some flavor in there. And we don't want to caramelize anything. We just want to sweat the flavor, the juices out. A little bit of celery, and a little bit of small diced carrot, just for some color. Stir that around. And because we're using dried fruit, we're going to add the dried fruit at this point as well, so that it has a chance to loosen up a little bit. And we get some of the extra flavors and some of the extra juices to come out. And you can use this stuffing for turkeys at Christmas time or whatever. It's all about adding flavor and just kind of making it easy. You could also do this stuffing up ahead and stuff it into your roast chicken before you put it in the oven, but the chicken will roast a little bit quicker, and this is just something you can kind of do in the meantime as you're watching hockey or football or whatever. So sweat that off, and we just want to sweat them so that we have translucent vegetables and the juices start coming out without any color. We're going to add bread. Today I'm using baguette, but if you had some brioche or just sandwich bread or in the cupboard, or dinner rolls or whatever, dice it up nice and small, and we're going to add that in, and any of the extra bacon fat the bread is going to soak up. And then we're also going to have some add a little bit of extra butter to it, just to make it that much more flavor. Okay, so while that's going, we'll let those sweat. We have our bread ready. We're using fresh herbs today. If you're using dry herbs, now would be a good time to add your dry herbs, so that you have a chance for them to rehydrate and a chance to the oils to come out. But because we're using fresh herbs today, then we're going to put those in at the last minute, because if you put them in too early, you'll lose all the flavor, and all the juices all the oils will come out too quickly. So we're going to add those a little bit later. And we're also going to add some Gouda cheese to it, an old Gouda. You can use cheddar, you can use goat's cheese, whatever you like to kind of add to the dressing. So we're going to add that all a little bit later. We're going to get some roasted potatoes to serve with our stuffed chicken breast. So we're just taking baby reds, and we're just going to cut them into small quarters. Okay, and we're going to roast these. We're going to toss them in a little bit of oil, some salt and pepper, maybe some herbs and some spice blend. It's maybe the same one you use for your roast chicken. And these will be the roasted veg to go with our stuffed chicken breast, which we're going to do a little bit later once we get our dressing ready. So fairly large chunks. You just want them to be able to fit on the plate. So we'll throw those in a pan. We'll season them with a little bit of salt and pepper. Okay, we'll throw a little bit of smoked paprika on there too, just for fun. And then we'll take some oil, olive oil or canola oil. It's completely and entirely up to yourself, whatever you happen to have. And just to grease it up a little bit. And if you have a pie plate or a cookie sheet or something, you can put it on, but we happen to have nice little saute pans. So we'll throw those on the saute pan. And we're going to put those into our oven to roast a little bit. Okay, so you can see that the fruit are starting to soften up a little bit. The vegetables are becoming translucent. So now we're going to add our bread into the pan. We're also going to add a little bit of butter. We're going to stir that all together. Now the bread will soak up any of the excess oils or anything that's in the pan, and it'll also take on all the flavors of the fruit and the vegetables that are in there. We can also add a little bit of salt and pepper. We're just going to let that soak in for a minute. Turn it down a little bit because it's starting to caramelize in the bottom. Okay, now before we went to break, said we were going to do a quick little barbecue sauce. Okay, so this is very quick and very easy. So what we're going to start off with is some ketchup, or tomato paste works too, but the ketchup is already saucy and ready to go. And this is just something that I make really quick, kind of on the fly, because I need some barbecue sauce in a hurry, and this is very popular in my house. So ketchup, brown sugar, okay, balsamic vinegar, some hickory seasoning or smoke seasoning. So if you have any kind of smoke flavored sauces or spices in your cupboard, a little bit of smoked paprika, okay, a pinch of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then what you want to do is you want to stir it together or whisk it together, and it's that easy. And then you just keep adjusting the sugar and the vinegar till you get the right consistency. If you like it a little bit more smoky or hickory, then you can add a little bit more of that spice. Always a good idea to give it a little taste. If you have a little bit of garlic powder too, you can put that in there as well. Just a little bit more of the hickory. Okay. So you can see our bread's soaking up. So we're going to add our oils, we're going to add our herbs, we're going to sprinkle on our Gouda. Okay. And that's done. So our stuffing is ready to go into the chicken. We have our barbecue sauce ready for our wings, so don't go away. We come right back. We're going to dress up our wings and we're going to stuff our chicken breasts. Welcome back to Kitchen Uncovered. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson of the Culinary Institute. Today we're doing chicken. So we have our chicken broken down. We have our wings tossed in the barbecue sauce. They're in the oven. They'll be ready just about time for plate up. So now I'm going to show you how to butterfly and stuff the chicken breast with the stuffing that we made. So with the chicken breast that we took off the chicken, we left the drumhead on, okay, for presentation purposes. And to butterfly these open, this is the best way I like to do it, is you always have this extra tender in the chicken breast. So we're just going to flip that over and just make a slight incision just underneath it. And don't cut all the way through the meat. You just want to make a nice, neat little pocket. Then we'll turn around and we'll go the other way. And again, you don't want to cut through the meat to make a hole. You just want to open it up a little bit. Okay? And we're going to do the same thing over here to this one. So just open it up to make a little pocket, and then open it up again. Okay. Then we have just a little bit of salt and pepper. Okay. And we have our stuffing that we made. All right. So we're going to take a handful of that, and we're going to put it in the chicken. And we're going to take another one. And while you're doing this, we're going to cook these right away. So we have our pan warming up, and we're going to get that nice and hot so we get a sear, a sizzle on the chicken breast. So we're going to take it and we're going to roll it over. And when you roll over the chicken breast, you want to make sure that the layers of meat connect, so that when it cooks, it'll make a seal. So you take the tender part over and you just go all the way around, and you want to make sure that it crosses over and it's a tight little bundle like that. Okay, now the best way of doing this is if you do this a couple hours ahead of time or the night before. If you set that in the fridge and let that firm up, it will allow the proteins to kind of relax a little bit, and when you sear it, it won't open up. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put these in the pan very carefully, nice and hot, and we're going to put the skin side down first so that we get a nice caramelization, a nice color on the skin. Okay, so I'm going to lose one mitt. I'm going to take the olive oil and put it into the pan. You want the pan fairly warm. If it's smoking, that's a good idea. All right, and then we're going to take the chicken and we're just gently going to lay it in the pan. So once you put the chicken in, you should get a nice sear and it should sizzle, and you want to get nice caramelization on the skin of the chicken breast. So I'm just going to get rid of my cutting board. Okay, and you want to give it a chance to really color up and get a nice crisp skin. So that's been on there for a few minutes. So just gently roll it over. And you want to have it to have a nice even color on that. Now at this point, I would put some vegetables in there and I would put it in the oven, but for simplicity's sake, we have one done. So add our sugar snap peas and that would go in the oven to cook for probably 5 to 6 minutes until the chicken breast is done, and then it's ready to go. Okay, so we'll put that aside, and we have one in the oven. Okay, so nice even color. Chicken's cooked all the way through. Vegetables are hot. We also have our roasted potatoes that we're going to take out, but before we do that, I want to take the chicken breast out of the pan and put them on a side plate just to rest for a minute. And what that'll do is that'll allow any of the juices to kind of settle out and disperse back into the chicken. And what we're going to do is we're going to heat that pan up. I'm going to use that pan, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of white wine, and then we're going to add our barbecue sauce as the sauce to go over our chicken. So I'm going to grab the roasted potatoes. Okay, the roasted potatoes we can put right on the plate. And take a little bit of white wine. You could use red wine if you wanted to. I'm just going to deglaze the pan just a little bit, get some of that extra flavor out. And just to deglaze the extra flavors in the fond a little bit. And then we're going to take some of our barbecue sauce and we're going to add that to the pan just to dilute and to warm up a little bit. So we'll just kind of let that sit and simmer, come up to temperature. Now we're going to take our chicken breasts out of the plate that they rested on. And we're just going to do a little bit of a presentation with these. I'll put some veg on the plate to add some color. Whole cherry tomatoes warmed up are so nice because they have that real sweet flavor. And they just kind of have that explosion going on when you eat them. They're beautiful. So take the chicken breast. What I like to do is to show off the stuffing that we made. So we'll turn that over and then we'll put it right there just like that. Our sauce is just about ready. Meanwhile, I'm going to grab the wings out of the oven. So the wings that we tossed in the barbecue sauce and put in a pan with just a little bit of stock, okay, are all caramelized up nice. Again, we could throw some cherry tomatoes on there, some color. And then we have our sauce. We'll just pour the sauce over the chicken just like that. So very quick, very easy. That's what you do with a whole roast chicken whenever you get it home from the grocery store. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson of the Culinary Institute of Canada. Check out our website, kitchenuncovered.com, for any extra recipes. Thanks for watching.